Okay, get ready, because today we're going deep on something pretty wild.
Oh, yeah.
It's the book of Revelation.
Okay.
But here's the twist. What if we take it all literally?
Mm.
I'm already getting chills just thinking about it, to be honest.
Right.
But luckily, we have expert speaker here to guide us through this.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, but also maybe terrifying. Right?
Yeah, I think it definitely makes you look at things a little differently. Like, imagine just looking up
Yeah.
and the sun's going dark and the moon's blood red
Oh
and
my
the
God.
stars are falling.
That's straight out of Revelation 6.12.
It is.
Talk about a way to get your attention.
For sure.
But if we're playing this take it literally game,
Mm.
how do we even begin to think about these events actually happening?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, one way to think about it is that these are real physical events.
Okay.
But on a scale, I don't know, just huge E, like beyond anything we can really grasp right now. Like, we could be talking about cosmic events that would just change everything, our whole understanding of the universe.
So not just like your average meteor shower, huh?
Oh, no, no, no.
Okay. All right.
More like the laws of physics just going haywire.
Wow.
It's hard to even picture, really, but it paints a pretty dramatic picture
Yeah.
of the end times.
It does. Okay. My head's already spinning a little bit,
Okay.
but let's keep going. Another verse that really stands out is Revelation 1.7. It talks about the Son of Man appearing in heaven and everybody on earth mourning.
Right.
So what's the literal interpretation of that?
Well, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because now we're bringing in the human element, right?
Right.
Taking it literally, it could mean that the Son of Man appears in a way that everyone on earth can see.
Right.
No doubt about it. And the mourning, well, that could be people realizing it's Judgment Day. Like this collective grief, over what humanity's become and what's about to happen.
It's like this giant moment of truth for everyone.
Exactly.
A reckoning where we all have to face our own mortality.
Yeah.
And the choices we've made.
Absolutely. And you have to wonder how different people and cultures would react.
Oh, for sure.
Like, would there be widespread panic, or would people repent?
Yeah.
Would some just refuse to believe it? It's fascinating to think about.
Definitely. A little unsettling, too, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, a little bit.
Speaking of judgment, one of the excerpts you sent over focuses on Revelation 14.7. It specifically mentions God judging those who commit sexual immorality.
Right.
So, playing the literal game here, what could that actually look like?
Well, that's where things get tricky. Because if you interpret judgment for specific actions literally, it can lead to some difficult conclusions.
Right.
It makes you think about the nature of divine punishment, how it would happen in the real world.
Yeah.
Would it be for each person or for groups of people?
Okay, I could already see how a literal reading of Revelation could get pretty controversial.
Yeah, definitely. But even if we're being literal, there's still room for interpretation, and
Right.
different opinions, how we understand these verses and what they mean for how we should live.
Right.
It's an ongoing conversation.
It is. Okay, before we go too deep down that rabbit hole,
Okay.
let's try to ground this a bit.
Mm.
We know Revelation is full of symbolism,
Yeah,
imagery, metaphors, all that.
right.
How do we square that with a literal interpretation? Are we supposed to believe there's really a woman riding a seven-headed beast?
Yes, the beast.
That's the beast.
It's one of the most vivid and maybe the most challenging images in Revelation. The key, I think, is even if we're being literal, there can still be symbolism.
Okay.
We might not be dealing with a literal woman and a literal beast, but they represent something else.
Okay.
Like systems of power or ideologies that have gone bad or even specific people who embody certain things.
So it's about looking for the real-world equivalents of these symbolic figures.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns from Revelation 13, that could be a powerful empire.
Oh, I see.
Or a group of nations that control things and persecute those who disagree with them.
Right, right.
It's a way of understanding the forces of evil in the world, even if we're taking the events literally.
I'm starting to see how a literal interpretation, even with all its complexities, could help us understand that big battle between good and evil
Yeah,
that Revelation is all about.
definitely. It gives you a different perspective, that's for sure.
It does. It's a little unsettling, but definitely thought-provoking.
Oh, yeah.
Makes you think about the choices we make the systems we support, and what the consequences might be.
It does.
Now, that's what I call food for thought.
Maybe a little apocalyptic appetizer.
You got that right. But we're just getting started.
Okay.
There's a lot more to unpack in these excerpts.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm both excited and a little scared to see where this literal lens takes us.
Right.
But that's for next time.
Yeah, next time. Okay, ready for more?
Oh, yeah. Hit me with it.
All right, let's dive into one of the most debated parts of Revelation. The great prostitute sitting on many waters in Revelation 17.
Okay, if we're taking this literally, who or what could that even be? That's a pretty intense image.
It is, yeah. And even with a literal interpretation, there are a few different ideas out there.
What?
Some people think it represents a specific city,
Okay.
maybe one known for being wealthy and powerful, a big trading center,
Right.
and yeah, known for its moral decay, too.
So not a literal woman then.
Right, more like a symbol for something bigger.
Okay, I could see that.
Think of it like a city or maybe even a whole system
Yeah.
that's turned away from God, chasing after material things and corruption.
Right.
And those many waters she's sitting on,
Yeah.
those could represent her influence spreading all over the world.
It's like this prostitute represents the temptation of worldly power and wealth.
Exactly.
The stuff that can lead people astray.
Yeah, it's a warning about what happens when you compromise your values for, temporary gains.
That's a good point. Okay, speaking of powerful forces, we can't forget about God's role in all of this.
Right.
It's a big theme throughout Revelation. How does that fit into a literal interpretation?
Well, this is where divine intervention comes in.
Okay.
Reading it literally, it suggests that God isn't just watching these events unfold.
Yeah.
He's actively directing them.
Wow.
Plagues, earthquakes, even those crazy cosmic displays we talked about earlier.
So if we're being literal here, we're saying God is directly intervening in what happens to humans.
You could say that. It's like he's deeply involved in how history plays out, and his actions are meant to grow about his kingdom.
Wow, okay.
Of course, that raises a whole bunch of questions about free will and predestination.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's a topic for another time.
Yeah, let's stick with the literal lens for now. Another thing that comes up a lot in these excerpts is tribulation. Things are definitely not going to be easy in this literal interpretation of Revelation.
No, the text is pretty clear about that. We're talking wars, famines, natural disasters, on a scale that's hard to imagine, and yeah, even persecution for those who stay faithful.
It sounds pretty intense, to be honest, but if we're looking for real-world parallels, there has always been conflict and suffering
Absolutely.
throughout history.
Yeah, and a literal interpretation might say that these tribulations aren't just unavoidable.
Right.
They're actually necessary steps towards something bigger.
Okay.
It's like these trials are meant to test humanity, to refine us, separate the good from the bad, so to speak.
So it's not all doom and gloom then?
No, not at all. Remember, the main message of Revelation, even in the scariest parts, is one of hope and victory. The tribulation is tough, but it's not the end.
It's not.
It's like a crucible where a new world emerges.
A new heaven and a new earth. Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture, but let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
Yeah.
If we take all of this literally, how should it change how we live today?
That's a question that's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't have any specific survival tips, but I think the main takeaway is a call to action.
Okay.
Taking Revelation literally emphasizes the need for repentance.
Right.
Turning away from sin and living a life of faith.
So it's not so much about prepping physically, but more about being spiritually ready.
Exactly. It's about strengthening your faith, getting closer to God,
Right.
and living in a way that aligns with his will. It might mean making different choices, putting your values first,
Yeah.
even standing up for what you believe in, even when it's hard.
It's a pretty radical way to live.
It can be, yeah.
Huh.
But reading Revelation literally suggests that these are extraordinary times,
Okay.
and that requires extraordinary measures.
This whole literal lens is really making me rethink things. It's not the, the comfortable version of faith, but there's something powerful about its honesty and the urgency it brings.
I agree. It's not easy, but it's a unique way to understand the text and how it applies to our lives.
All right, I'm feeling like I need a minute to digest all of this, but before we do, let's tackle one more thing from Revelation that I find fascinating. The idea of a new heaven and a new earth.
Okay.
What's the literal take on that final promise?
Yes, the grand finale.
The grand finale.
After all the drama and judgment, This is where things get really mind-blowing, even
Yeah.
from a literal perspective. We're not talking about a metaphor here.
Right.
A literal interpretation suggests the entire physical universe gets remade.
Wow. Okay, so, like, no more traffic jams or bad weather. I'm in.
Haha, well, the details are a little vague, but Revelation describes it as incredibly beautiful and peaceful.
Okay.
A place full of light where suffering and death are gone and God's presence is everywhere.
It almost sounds too good to be true. But if we're being literal, I guess anything is possible.
Exactly, and that's what makes this whole exploration so exciting. It pushes us to think bigger, to face our fears,
Yeah.
and to embrace the possibility of a future beyond our wildest dreams.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling both exhausted and kind of energized by this deep dive into Revelation.
I know what you mean. It's definitely not your average Sunday school lesson.
No, it's not. But it's given me a lot to think about.
Key too. It challenges what we think we know, makes us grapple with the big questions about
cool.
life, death, and what it all means.
You know, thinking about a literal new heaven and a new earth, it's a lot to wrap my head around.
It is.
It's like trying to imagine a color you've never seen.
It really stretches what we can even grasp, doesn't it?
It does.
But the way Revelation 21 describes it, with that crystal river, streets of gold, a city of light,
Yeah.
it's meant to inspire awe, you know?
It's like a cosmic reset, wiping away all the bad stuff
Right.
and creating something perfect in its place.
And the best part, no more death, no more tears, no more pain.
Wow.
It's complete restoration, like God's original plan for us.
It's easy to focus on the scary parts of Revelation.
Mm.
But that promise of a new heaven and a new earth,
Yeah.
it really highlights the hope that runs through it all.
It does. It's a powerful reminder that even with all the chaos,
Right.
there's a bigger plan, a divine plan,
Okay.
that leads to redemption and renewal, something to hold on to even in dark times.
That's what I find so compelling about looking at Revelation this way.
Yeah.
It's not sugarcoating anything, but it doesn't leave you hopeless either. It's a real honest look at the spiritual battle going on, but it points us toward a future where good wins.
Absolutely. And it challenges us to live in a way that reflects that hope,
Right.
to be people who bring healing and reconciliation to a world that really needs it.
Yeah, it's not just waiting around, it's about taking action.
Exactly.
This has been an amazing deep dive.
It has.
It's really changed how I understand Revelation.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you.
And to everyone listening, we hope this literal look at Revelation has made you think, maybe even spark some aha moments. What really stood out to you? What questions came up? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep diving deep.